Welcome, fellow geeks, to episode 47 of Geeking Off the Page.
I'm Troy.
I'm Trevor.
And I'm Mike.
So, Mr. Brown, seeing you are the fall 2 host lately, why don't you start us off with where do we want to go with this?
All right. Well, so a lot of things have come up this past week. So I'm going to leave Disney Plus's offering for the end because I'm sure there's a lot to be said about that. So Michael wishes to talk about the Orville. I know you saw some episodes of Harley Quinn.
Yep.
The new Green Lantern movie, which I'm kind of jealous of because I want to see it. So floor is open, folks. Who wants to start?
Go for it with the Orville there, Mike.
Okay, before I start, where are you guys at with the series?
Doesn't matter. Spoil away.
Have not watched a single episode. Go right ahead.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well, this episode is a doozy. And I've been saying all along that this is like some of the best entertainment sci-fi that we've had in years.
Mm-hmm.
And every episode doesn't disappoint. So this one is called Domino. And they did a whole bunch of stuff that I was not expecting in a television sci-fi series. So essentially, because all these episodes are really long, they're like an hour and 20 minutes. Like it's essentially feature-length film length every episode.
Oh, really? Oh, that's kind of cool. So they're not. So they're basically taking advantage of the Hulu not being an actual network anymore. So
yeah, so it's
cool.
Like they're going all in.
All right.
This episode could probably be like the third best Star Trek film of all time.
Ooh.
Which is pretty crazy. Like, you know, you got your Wrath of Khan, you got Undiscovered Country, you know, like,
and then
it's somewhere around there.
Season 3,
like
episode 9 of the Orbit.
Yes. And they did so many things in this episode that I was not expecting. Like it starts off, there's this whole thing with the Kalon, the robots, the basically evil Data's Borg type aliens. So they've been the big menaces all the way along. But there's signs that there could be some humanity. They built some sympathy for them in the previous episodes. And now the gay Klingons have teamed up with the Dominion, essentially. And so they have this new alliance. So they're going against the Union. So now the Union is completely screwed because they're way outgunned and they can't match basically what these robots are doing. Like they are completely outgunned. However, what's his name? Isaac and the new ensign Charlie came up with this new super weapon that can basically destroy all of the robots. And there's this cool scene at the beginning, an entire fleet of these Union ships fly into battle. They form this cool, like a lotus shape. All the ships come together. Yes, Trevor.
Is it a giant bucket of water? Because that fucks up any electronics. So they form a giant bucket of water.
Essentially, the weapon is the same thing. I mean, it's the same trope they always use. It's like the what's the word for it? Yeah, it's like the cliche where it causes a chain reaction and basically kills everything.
All right.
Right? It's that kind of MacGuffin. So they've created this thing. They've got it in the center. They test it out in battle. All the ships form into this cool lotus shape, like this fractal pattern of ships. And then it fires off that beam and it works. And so now the next thing is they present it to the Union. And it's like, okay, do we use this to exterminate the entire race? And they're like, whoa, okay, now that's, you know, for defense, yes. But like, are we going to commit genocide? And then that becomes the whole thing. So half the Union says yes, like, let's commit the genocide because they're trying to kill us. The other half is like, whoa, let's not go that far. But then Ted Danson, of all people, takes the damn thing to the enemy.
No.
And if have you guys watched The Good Place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've watched that as a family. It's like, Michael, what are you doing? Oh, Michael always turns. Oh, that Michael. So now the enemies have the genocide weapon and they're willing to use it. the Union has to make a choice. They say, okay, we're not going to commit genocide. We have to go get it back. So this is like the first, like 15, 20 minutes of the episode. So now you have an hour left to go. It's like, what are we going to do with an hour?
How do you top it?
Right. So it's like a full-on invasion. The bad guys are going to set it up. They're going to commit full genocide. The Union comes in. Thousands of ships. Like, it's crazy. It's like a schools of minnows flying through space. Again, like the effects on this is ridiculous. They have all the personal starfighters, which are like Union X-Wings. So they're going in full-on combat and essentially have to get the weapon back and stop genocide.
Okay.
And in the end, there's another character death, and like the fact they kill 2 characters in this episode. And eventually the robots are like, well, why would they do that? It's like, well, because, even though they hate you, they're willing to give their life to protect you because they're trying to do the right thing. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So in the end, you have these robots joining the Union. And so one side flipped over and became teamed with the bad guys. Now the Kaelon are now teamed with the Union. And like, what a doozy of an episode. And again, the writing is spot on. The action's spot on. The characters are spot on. Like, I don't see any flaw in it. The only thing I could say is some of the effects didn't look very good for a movie. For a television show, like, damn, it's impressive. But again, another one. Yeah, the Orville knocked it out of the park.
Awesome.
And I can't wait to hear, like, when you guys get caught up on this, just what you think of the whole thing.
I'm already excited to see it. So I just gotta, at some point I gotta carve out some time with the wife, and then we'll try to get caught up on some of these because it's all sounded really good. Yeah, I really want to see this now. I like big space battles. I always have.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And when you see how many ships, again, they're trying to save a couple people, but you look at the amount of damage, the amount of havoc, like the amount of ships that get blown up in the process. Like, like this isn't some little like diddly Star Trek Next Generation battle. This is like full on war, and
yeah, it's not a little schoolyard like fight. It's having some real consequences to the fight. Yeah, which is great. I mean, because I think there's an adage of people who've never been to war will never understand the sacrifice that it really is. I mean, because you can read about it and you can go out with your friends and like play paintball and shit like that, but everyone gets to go home at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the difference between a war game.
Yeah.
And war.
At the end of the day, you share a beer and you're like, yeah, it was a pretty good shot you did there. Yeah. In a real conflict, people don't get to go home. Some people just, they don't get to go home, and that's the reality of it. And so when you see something like that on, in portrayed in media, if they do it right, it hits you hard. Like it's like, I mean, these are people losing their lives and they don't get to go home and see their loved ones at the end of this. So yeah.
Have you followed Jocko Willink at all?
What's that?
Have you followed Jocko Willink?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not.
So he was a guy. He was a Navy SEAL. And now he does like, what's his company? Echelon Front. He started. It's almost like a motivational speaking type of thing. He's been on Joe Rogan a bunch of times, but he's a hardcore dude. And listening to the way he describes being in that kind of combat, because again, like, he's a real soldier, and he talked about how it was fun, but then at the same time he talks about all his friends that didn't make it, and the people who didn't come home in one piece. Like, they made it home, but it's brutal stories. But yeah, like, just to go along with what you're saying, Trevor, is like, look up some of the Jocko Willink stuff. He does a lot of podcasts with other military people, and yeah, he's a pretty hardcore dude. So
yeah,
there was listening, look that up.
There was a book a friend of mine named Taylor had me read that. It's basically the first person account of a soldier who was separated from his unit. I think it was during Desert Storm, and got captured. And he didn't know what happened to the rest of his unit. And, you know, unlike the movies where they teach, you know, they show all the you be the tough guy and you withstand the torture. They're told, you know, don't be the tough guy because they will do things to you that you can't even fathom. And he, you know, he survived, and he wrote this book about, you know, what it meant to basically have to let go being like the, you know, the biggest guy in the room sort of thing. He didn't give any information other than his name, rank, serial number, but these people didn't care. And sometimes there were days he was tortured and they never asked a single question. And when he finally was rescued and he found that his entire platoon, with the exception of one other guy, was wiped out. The other guy basically, he turned right when this guy turned left, and he managed to cross a good portion of Iraq until he got back with friendly troops. And, you know, as he said at the end of the book, you know, all the torture done to him, as horrific as it was, doesn't equal the knowing that none of his friends made it. Not a single one, other than this one guy. And they ended up hating each other because the one guy said, you gave up and, you know, got captured. And it was just like, it was such it was a hard read. It really was.
Wow.
And yeah, it's and he even makes the point of, you know, people who've never been in combat, you won't understand until it happens. You know, all the movies and the books in the world will paint this rosy picture that it, like, when you watch a movie, you don't smell the carnage.
Right.
It's, you know, when it's in all of your senses, it's such a different thing. So yeah, so I'm saying, like, for this episode of the Orville, the way you're describing it, you know, it has that understanding that, you know, people aren't just, ooh, pew pew, and we're going home and having beers later.
Yeah, and it again, because it's still, it feels like Star Trek, like classic Star Trek. So you kind of think that's what's going to happen. Like, you do think it's going to be just, yeah, go home and have some beers and, you know, hooray, another episode done. But no, it's more intense than that. And again, for a show that started out as essentially a parody.
Yeah, I basically
crazy.
Dick jokes every 5 minutes.
Yep.
That's awesome. I like the fact that they're, you know, now that they're on Hulu and they can, you know, spread their wings a little bit, they're trying this stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I wonder how far they can take it, because every single episode, it's like they keep raising the bar. We talked about this before. It's like, oh, how far do you keep raising this bar?
Yeah.
But the fact that it's like 6 episodes in, and they keep doing it.
8 or 9. I think this was episode.
Is it that
9.
far?
Yeah, this is episode 9.
Okay, so whatever it is, it's really good stuff, and there hasn't been a low point all season.
That's awesome. So unlike other series that we've watched where there's like, yeah,
it
hasn't fallen off the cliff. Now, something else that happened this week was my family and I finally finished season 2 of Alone. And turns out I'd picked the right guy to win. So now we're in season 3. I think the wife and I are going to start season 4 with, basically, I think, as we're doing every odd number season, we're going to watch for the girls, every even number season, just be my wife and I. So we haven't started season 4 yet, just because our schedules have been crazy. But season 3 is looking pretty good so far. You know, out in Patagonia.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
We're 4 episodes in, 5 maybe. And I got my money on Carly from Alaska. The girl, she just seems like she's going to be tough enough to survive. Like, it doesn't seem to be as affecting her as some of the other people who are like, like the guy who cut his arm with his axe, which was just like, oh, did you not watch season 2? Careful with them things. You can hurt yourself. Yeah. So it's going along pretty good. I don't know. I just have a feeling she's going to win it. So.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of fun things in season 3.
Yeah,
like, it really makes you think about strategies and psychology, and you see, that rage monster dude who, like, right out of the gate is just cursing and, like, freaking out. And you see these other ones who are just completely stoic, and you see the ones like, no, I'm going to build a house, I'm going to build insulation, I'm going to build a fireplace. You have to do is like, I'm not doing nothing, I'm not burning any calories, like I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah, it's like you're
And
gonna die. Doing nothing does, it's not like you don't burn any calories by doing nothing. You burn calories just by existing.
And that's one fun thing that with the show, how they keep doing the little pop-up information.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to sit here. It's like an average male of this size burns this many calories just sitting and doing nothing.
Burns 2,400 calories a day while doing nothing. So
yeah.
Unless that's really calorie full air you're breathing in, you might want to do something, buddy. Get off your ass and actually do something.
So, that's for season 2, because you posted your prediction on who would win the night before we were watching the finale. So I had thought you had already watched it. It's like, no, Trevor, don't spoil it.
No, I hadn't. We were still 2 episodes away when we did that. We still had the Spaniard guy. What's his name? It's around the time, Larry, and then the missionary.
It's Larry
guy.
And David, because I know it's Larry David. Like the last 2 was Larry David. Go figure. And then that Jose guy.
Yeah, the Jose guy
is one who I would have thought would win it, except they kept showing him tip over. In the intro, it's like there's no way he tips over and makes it.
I mean, if he could have tipped over and just, if his tent had been more sealed, he could have basically almost made like a sweat box and just put the clothing in there and just let it dry out quickly. But because you said the nature of his tent, you're like, there's no way he's going to dry that stuff.
No.
So he's going to have to tap. And the fact that he hits the button and he waited in the water for them to. I was like, well, get out of the water.
You can see where just like the paralysis sets in. Like I know I've been in cold water things, and you're just
an old man.
Yeah, you can't do it.
So when it was down to the last 2, I was like, "Oh God, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? It's gonna be Larry, who's just so angry at the start, like just cursing at bushes as he's walking around, and
he's trying to stomp down a rainforest.
Yeah, and then he has that breakdown into the bucket where he prays to God to come do something for him, and I was like, oh. David's looking better and better. Good thing I put him as my lead horse, and so that's why I'm saying season 3. I think my money's on Carly. I think she's gonna do well. It's her and who's the other one? The one from British Columbia, Megan. Megan strikes me as one who's gonna make if she can go to the end, I think she will. So. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
One thing with season 2 is David, because I ended up looking up him afterwards, and he was talking about how when he got to the end, like because he was starving for weeks, but at the end, he started catching those crabs. It's like I was actually gaining weight. Like I was in a pretty good spot.
He was catching fish every day. He was getting crabs every day. So he had.
There's an ointment to clear that sort of thing up.
Yeah. Well, a long, sharp stick kept clearing it up for him. But no, he was doing good towards the end there. He finally figured out his cove well enough to fish it, as well as where to find the crabs. So
now again,
we're on season 4.
Yeah. How many seasons is this series currently
9.
at, though?
They're currently in the middle of season 9 right now.
Okay, so it is it's still ongoing and all.
Yeah. So if you watch History Channel, they're like I think
right.
halfway through, or maybe 2/3 the way through right now. Of season 9, which is like this season.
Yeah, that's the season my mother's at. So she keeps watching it here, and I have to keep running away. It's like, no spoilers. This is a season I don't want spoilers.
It's like, I'm going to turn this up. Why is Mike running out of the room with his fingers over his ears? Oh, well.
It's happened many times here. Yes. Now, season 4 is interesting. I don't know if you looked that up. That's Pairs.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're going to be starting it this week with the girls. So maybe Tuesday.
It's interesting because it's a new spin on it. So it's a team of 2 dropped off 10 miles apart.
Oh, and the one has to find the other.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds interesting.
So you get a compass coordinate.
Right.
And they have to walk through Vancouver Island, which is like a nasty rainforest. And one of the guys actually says, it's like, yeah, I didn't know why Larry was getting so pissed off, and now I understand it. I hate this forest. It's that kind of attitude. Awesome. So this one's a lot different. You feel sorry for the people that have to do the hikes, but it's amazing how many guys who set up camp are the ones who tap out and go home. It's crazy. So interesting season for that one.
All right, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I think we'll
Is-
probably
is-
start that Monday.
Is that the only season that it's done that way? Do they go back
That's
to
the only
norm,
one
or-
I've seen.
Oh, okay.
I got
Okay,
to the-
so you didn't do any other research on any other seasons that are out there, right?
No, because it keeps like spoilers come up. It's like,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Never.
yeah.
Yeah.
you
Okay,
know,
I
it's like,
understand then.
oh,
yeah.
season 7 is the one with this, where these people want. It's like, ah, darn it! Like,
Yeah,
let
so
me-
I-
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
really
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
at
yeah.
remembering names.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
staying
like-
away from looking it up online just because I just don't want to get this, because I looked up something. We were watching season 1 and it was like, I was like, oh no, don't show me the winner. And it was like, and the winner, and looked, I hadn't scrolled up one. I was like, I'm just gonna close the page.
Yep.
I'm not gonna look.
And that's an interesting thing, because like, you know, this obviously is a spoiler cast, and we always talk about things, you know, unless people haven't seen it and say, no, I don't want spoilers.
And
No,
we
we spoil
say at
the
the beginning,
hell-
we say at the beginning of the show, there's a spoiler, like whatever you're going to be listening to, it's all going to be spoiler. You don't want to listen to it, fine, don't listen to it. But no
Exactly.
spoiler.
I mean, my wife listens to the
Yeah.
podcast, but I try not to spoil alone because we enjoy it together. So
And that's my point. Like the fact that this weird reality TV show of people in the woods is the one where it's
Yeah,
like,
the one thing
la
we
la
don't- we
la,
try
no
not to spoil.
spoilers.
oh boy. All right, so we're going to switch a couple of gears here, and Troy, you're going to have a lot to talk about because Harley Quinn, Green Lantern. Spoiler
Yeah,
away.
well, I'm going to start off.
Yeah,
with
I've seen none of those, but spoil away.
Okay, so have you guys seen any of season 1 or 2 of the Harley Quinn series?
I've caught like a couple episodes of season 1, but I haven't been able to keep up with it.
Okay, so basically what this is this is not a kid-friendly program to begin with. There is it's a very adult theme. It is very deep into foul language and graphic violence, which is
It's HBO.
fantastic. Yeah, no, it's an HBO Max animated series, so there was no doubt that it wasn't going to be, but it actually, I believe, was a lot more shocking than anybody was going to give it any credit to begin with. So the first season was just blew everybody away, and the best thing about season 2 is it like followed like a month later, season 2. So season 3 just dropped the first 3 episodes, are up to their first 3 episodes, which has been released on like I said, HBO Max, and it has not let up any bit and all that. This first episode picks up. It's called Harley Evie, which is their name, their couple's name, because at the end of the second season, they become a couple themselves, which is kind of nice. It plays on the storylines that have been woven in and out of the lore of both characters, both fanfic and in the actual comic book world and all that, and it follows it through to the point where they are now an actual couple. And basically this whole entire opening first episode of the season is them on their honeymoon, technically, as they pillage their way through the world. They go to different places, wreaking havoc and creating violence and all that sort of thing. And we're introduced to what is going to be the underlining storyline of the whole entire season, where Harley Quinn she discovers that Ivy has had this utopian paradise that she tried to create, where the idea that Ivy was going to take over the world with this. She basically developed these prehistoric plants that have come back to life and all that sort of thing, but she only had the ability to create like 1 acre square. Harley brings her to this location and convinces her to, you know what, you've been following me all this time and all that, here, let's do something for you. So basically Harley's underlining storyline for what we can perceive as the rest of the season is her to basically take over the world with plants, sort of thing, like actually take over the world, and Harley's right behind her, being so encouraging and all that. The second episode, they get back with their other cohorts, which is King Shark and Clayface, and it's really fun. Ron Funches does the voice of King Shark, and Alan Tudyk does the voice of Clayface, which is also another kind of thing, because Alan Tudyk also does the voice of the Joker in this too, and they're two completely different. So he does a thespian voice when he's doing Clayface, and then he does a really, really nice interpretation of the Joker when he's being the Joker and all that. But in this season, we are introduced to Clayface trying to get a role in the Thomas Wayne biopic, and it's being directed by James Gunn, actually voiced by James Gunn, which is kind of cool. So James Gunn is actually in animated form, which is kind of cool. And in the third episode, we're introduced to the actor that is going to be playing Thomas Wayne, and that is Billy Bob Thornton. Yes, voiced by Billy Bob Thornton.
Nice.
So it's just fantastic. The voice acting is great. The character, just the character development and the characterization of all these known comic book legend characters, they turn them on their heads. Like in this, Riddler turns out to get into a relationship with the Clock King. They play up on the whole entire Batman doesn't eat pussy sort of thing. In one episode, Catwoman is during a conversation with a face-to-face conversation with Ivy, is apparently having Batman go down on her while she's in this conversation, and apparently he's not very good at it because she basically tells him to stop, sort of thing. Diedrich Bader is doing the voice of Batman, so the brave and the bold Batman is also Harley Quinn's Batman, which is kind of neat. They introduced the whole entire Bat family in this season so far. So Nightwing comes back into Gotham, and we are introduced to the rest of the team, which wasn't there in season 2, because apparently between the time that passes between season 2 and 3 is almost like it picks up from what it does. But when episode 1 ends, they realize, hey, 18 months have passed. So, but apparently a lot more time has gone on, because previous to this, it seems like Batman only had Robin. Now he has Batgirl. He has a new Robin. Nightwing has come back, and it's just hilarious. And the way that they play in the way that they play in the DC universe is just so entertaining. The third episode, there is basically a villains sort of Academy Awards sort of thing where where Harley and Ivy are up for best couple. And so all these other awards are given out and all that. And of course, Joker is hosting. So it's a nice Alan Tudyk sort of thing. And of course, there's history between obviously Joker and Harley Quinn, because they break up. At one point, Joker gets turned back into human form, falls in love with another woman, then gets turned back into Joker, but still is in love with this other woman and tries to do better by her, sort of thing. It's something that you definitely shouldn't jump into in the third season. This is something that you do have to watch from the beginning, because it is one fluid storyline, and individual episodes are fun. They're great to watch and all that sort of thing, but it is such an entertaining story arc. Kelly Coco from Big Bang Theory does the voice of Harley. She does a great twist on it. It's still in the realm of a Harley Quinn voice and all that, but it's a new 52 design of the Harley Quinn design. I guess this could be more of a new 52 sort of universe.
Does she ever wear the classic costume in the series?
And she does in flashback, and in the episode where the Joker is in charge of the award ceremony, he has two dancers dancing with him during the opening number, dressed in the Harley Quinn outfit. Actually, the beginning, the whole entire thing is they do, how they have that little skit before the actual award show begins. Well, the beginning of it, friggin' Jason Todd is about to be beaten to death, and as Joker wearing a sequence sort of sparkly purple like tuxedo is about to beat him, his phone goes off and he realizes, oh, I've got to get to the award show, and then starts in this musical number and all that sort of thing. And it's just
that's great.
Yeah, but it is something that should be experienced from the beginning, because it is such a fun series. And again, it's definitely not a kid's show. It is definitely, but it has such a so pulled together universe feel to it that it is a real universe. It's kind of cool. It's kind of neat to see something that is for the adult audience that is still a DC product and all that, and it is a very fun thing to see. So yeah,
or something coming to DC that's not absolute garbage.
exactly. Well, yeah, especially, I mean, DC does.
That's starting to happen lately. Like,
yeah, DC is
starting
doing
to
pretty
happen.
good. Has always been good with their animation. I mean, their direct-to-video movies are usually a higher mark above, of course, we know what Marvel can pull off and all that sort of thing. And of course, there's occasional sort of things that don't quite work out, but for the most part, DC is doing fantastic because they decide to do individual stories, individual universes within their movies. There's barely any ones that are connected to another. If there are, they're loosely connected, but stuff like this Harley Quinn series, it being its own separate series is fantastic, and it just borrows from, and it's very, very funny too, which is what the series really needs to be. So yeah, that's, I mean, I cannot recommend it highly enough, because it is just it's one of my favorite things, and it's kind of neat to see yet another twist on my favorite character of the Joker. I mean, still, he's a crazy guy, but what they put that character through is just so different, and it pays off, and it's so fun to see. Oh yeah, forgot to tell you this. I don't know if I should spoiler cast.
Spoiler cast, go for it.
In second season, Harley Quinn kills like 5 major villains, including the Penguin. The Penguin is in this universe dead, which is kind of cool. Oh, and Joker finds out that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Okay, well,
it's a fantastic sequence. Do yourself a favor, look up that clip where and then because he gets to the point where it's just something you got to see.
And now I'm doing this, which should be tons of fun, but I'm bored. What is wrong with me?
You're a sociopathic narcissist.
It was rhetorical, asshole. And who do you think you are, a psychiatrist?
Let's find out.
What?
Bloody hell! But it's billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne.
No! Are you shitting me? What is wrong with you? Don't you think I would have done that had I wanted to? Half the fun of our relationship was the mystery. Now I know Batman is just some boring rich asshole with parental issues.
That's really reductive.
Thanks for ruining the funnest thing I had going. Now I don't even feel like torturing him.
Sorry, I thought it might be the kind of thing Harley would do.
I don't care about Harley.
I'm sorry, look, I must have misread the situation when you kept saying her name and reminiscing about all your memories together, over and over and over.
Not even that was fun. Wayne Tech promised an electric car by this year. I put a deposit down. Where's my goddamn electric car, Bruce?
It's just so fun. But yeah, so that's what I got to say about Harley Quinn. So far, 3rd season. I believe it's every Friday they're releasing a new episode. It's only a half-hour long, and it's a fun series. So
Okay, I got a big question for you, Troy.
yes,
If you pit this against Batman animated series,
Batman animated series.
so that one still wins.
Oh yeah, because it has so much more longevity to it. I don't know if I mean, I haven't gone back to watch any of the Harley Quinns yet, right? But I have my PVR grabbing like the animated series every single time it comes on. And it's like, oh, there's a new episode on. Oh, which one is it? Oh, I don't like this one. I'll just get it off and all that sort of thing. Like the animated series also hit. I mean, like it hit us all at that time. We were into that thing. That was the core of our being. And so again, beautifully written. So it's the exact same that Harley Quinn has. Who knows? In like, if this lasts the 5-6 years that it's apparently supposed to, it could be rivaling that. But again, you can't show everyone this. I can show Batman the animated series with my daughter, right? And she enjoys it because she likes the characters. She likes seeing and all that sort of thing. I am definitely not showing her Harley Quinn. While she is a big Harley Quinn fan, thanks to Tara Strong, I am definitely not showing her this Harley Quinn for the longest time. So
okay, so here's another question, which is a problem I've had with Batman for a long time. Like, I have not been able to show Batman to my kids for decades, except for a few animated things that have come out. Like, it's become adult. So with this series, do you think it would be better as something that's more kid friendly? Like, could they strip out the hardcore stuff, make it more family friendly, and make it work?
I don't think so, because a lot of the storylines themselves are very adult. Like, there's relationship stuff. There's like the first season goes through the whole entire actual thing that other series didn't deal with, was the abuse that Joker gave to Harley Quinn. And the reason
Okay.
why Harley Quinn is trying to get away from Joker, and how she tried the longest not to, and how, so stuff like that is the core to this story. And again, it is a Harley Quinn story. Batman is a tertiary character. I mean, the Riddler is more of a main character than Batman is in this. So and Batman is not in everything. Commissioner Gordon is so, oh my God, Commissioner Gordon is such a train wreck in this. He is fantastic. He's a guy basically on the edge of losing everything, but still trying to do what he thinks is right to save Gotham. He just keeps digging himself in a deeper hole. In the first season, Batman has disappeared, so Batman doesn't show up till like near the end. So Gordon is going off on the whole entire, where is this guy that's been helping me try and fight all these villains and all that sort of thing. It's just, oh wait, oh yeah, Harley Quinn also kills Freeze. Freeze is dead now, and I'm trying to remember. There's some other one that I can't remember. That's a big one, but I can't off the top of my head think of what it is. But again, it's just a fun series, and the fact that King Shark and Clayface are her like cronies sort of thing. So it's just really, it's really fun. I like I said earlier, I cannot recommend this any higher right now. The first 2 seasons of Harley Quinn, the animated series on HBO Max, is 13 episodes each. So, but again, watch from the first. So it's a quick watch, and again, they're half-hour episodes, and yeah, so. All right, so on the other hand, I also got around to seeing the latest animated feature released directly to home video, like whatever, digital watch and all that sort of thing. And that is going to be called the Green Lantern Beware My Power, which was released on July 25th of this week when we were watching it, the year 2022, just in case those from the future are listening in, or those from the past that are listening in. Time travel.
Whoa.
So this basically, this basically gives us a story of where John Stewart is given the mantle of the Green Lantern. So it goes through that whole entire sequence and all that. It's one of those more modernly animated where everything has like the dark outline to the animation and all that. It's very sharp angles on the faces and all that sort of thing. Technically looking, it's really kind of cool and all that. The unfortunate thing is, it obviously looks like more than one studio worked on this. I didn't have the time to investigate into further and all that, because every once in a while, you know, those thick lines aren't so thick in some shots. And unfortunately, sometimes it's in the same sort of sequence and all that. So like they cut away and like, hey, why did that guy have like a really thick line around his nose, and the next one it's like a really pencil thin sort of thing? But that's not really part of the problem. This is an exposition movie. This is an hour and 27 minutes of exposition of the DC universe.
Oh boy.
We're introduced to one of the Guardians crashes outside of John Stewart's house, and
That's all they seem to do.
yeah, exactly. He's like, you have to save us. The Guardian disappears. The ring gets onto his finger. I cannot remember for the sake of me whether there is a communication that goes on between the ring and its bearer. Like, do you communicate with the ring? Does a lantern communicate like verbally with his ring?
I think when it first gets on, there's almost like a
there is
introduction package of like,
okay,
hey,
okay.
hey.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, so
and then from that point on, it's
a good portion of this story is obviously John Stewart, who doesn't want to be a Green Lantern, tries to figure out how not to be a Green Lantern. So he talks to the ring, and it takes him up to the Justice League satellite.
No, the Watchtower.
The Watchtower, thank you, the Watchtower, and where there is a very limited amount of people on the Watchtower. There is Green Arrow, there is Martian Manhunter, and there's the female hero that uses the different animals that she uses.
Cheetah?
Oh no,
No, not
no, no,
Cheetah.
no, no, no. She becomes. She has the little. She
Oh,
was
like the
introduced.
necklace.
Yeah, the necklace where she calls upon like the power of a tiger or the power of
Mhm.
a rhino or something like that to get the strength and
Just get it
whatever
in
and all that.
post.
Anyways, it's those three because apparently everyone else is busy. Superman,
it
they actually name drop that Superman and Wonder Woman are off world and nobody else can help, and we have to
Oh,
figure
they're
out.
not off world. They're doing hero-gasm.
Yeah,
We know that.
it's a hero gasm thing. Yes, now that we know, yes, it's definitely hero gasm. But it's just a interesting way. And then so they go down. So John Stewart and Green Arrow goes down because, as it turns out, he's got what is his? Who's the other? Not Guy Gardner, but
Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan. He's got Hal Jordan's ring apparently, because the ring tells them that it used to be Hal Jordan's ring, which of course is the Justice League's Green Lantern at this point. And apparently, you know what happens? The only way you can get a ring is by killing a lantern, and that's how it comes off their fingers. So Green Arrow is very invested in finding out what happened to them. So they go back to the ship. The ship has repaired itself. They hyperdrive back to the Lantern home planet. It's been decimated. All the Guardians are dead. All the lanterns there are dead. It looks like they were attacked from above. And they don't actually call her Hawk Girl, but they encounter Hawk Girl. So she's introduced to the story. And then she turns out two rivaling nations were at war. She tried to come to them to help the Lantern, to get the Lantern's help to help her protect her planet, because apparently the Hawk people, which I should have written down the names of the races and all that, because it's just because they keep throwing them back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's just, again, we then get an introduction to this war between them. We get an introduction of what the Guardians are. We get an introduction of who Sinestro is 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. We get an introduction to, yeah, exactly. It's a slog, unfortunately. And again, it's very well animated, but it just doesn't seem to be
well written,
cohesive. Yeah, it's definitely not well written. It looks neat. We start off the movie with a flashback of John Stewart, who apparently is encountering PTSD, right? For obviously, because he ends up like friggin' backhanding a guy and choking him because he like excuse me, hey guy, you want to move out of the way because you're blocking the thing. So when he taps him on the shoulder, John Stewart flips out, knocks the guy over and all that sort of thing, and like, hey, what's your problem? Like, sorry, have a good day, sort of thing, walks off. And like he's then having flashbacks to like obviously when he was during the Iraq war, because that's the war you do now, because you can't have modern day ones be Vietnam or whatever your war of choice to come home from, and not have done very well at home. So, but it comes up several times, but it really doesn't link much to the actual story. I mean, it sort of does, because he's seen too much killing. That's why he's not going to kill. But lanterns aren't supposed to kill anyway, sort of thing.
Unless you're a red lantern.
Yeah. Turns out Hal isn't really dead. They faked his death. So then, because Sinestro, and turns out it's just, I don't even feel like spoiling it. It's just not even worthy of it. I mean, I will say that I did not pay for this viewing. I did what I sometimes do because it's not available anywhere else. And then I just like, oh, let's put this on my phone and sort of thing. So it was perfectly fine for an hour and a half sitting there off my phone that I didn't pay anything for. And I was watching it in between doing other things. That's what this movie's about. I watched it in a couple of chunks. It didn't hold my attention throughout it. And again, it looks pretty. It's pretty well animated. The effects are kind of neat, but it didn't really feel like a cohesive. And from what I said just before Harley Quinn, how DC's animated movies are usually pretty good, but this just not that interesting. unfortunately.
Do you know if they tried to base this on any comics,
I
or is
think
this like 100% original? Or...
No. I did happen to see, because I wanted to see who these people were, and apparently they pulled from a couple of different storylines and all that. You know,
Okay.
how they piecemealed this story
Yeah.
together. And again,
Yeah.
it also explains why there's so much exposition in it. So I mean, it's just, I mean, I wouldn't recommend watching it unless you're a diehard DC fan. I mean, if you enjoy like the Green Lantern, if you're a I'm also not a huge Green Lantern fan. That also might be a problem that I had too with it. I mean, throwing in Hawkgirl and all that sort of thing and whatnot just seemed like, I don't know. They had to get a team together, so let's introduce this another character, and he becomes part of the team, and introduce another character, he becomes part of the team. But then there's this big villain turn at the end of the movie that's not really too shocking, because well, the big bad turns out to be Hal Jordan at the end of this sort of thing. And it's because of the Sinestro, what's the Parallax, thank you. The Parallax gets into him, and Sinestro thought, this will take him over and he'll be my crony. And then it turns out, nope, Hal Jordan overtakes the
Sinestro,
the Parallax. Yeah, exactly. And Sinestro, who has to pretend to be the guy in charge.
Yeah. Well,
who gets an arrow through his chest. So Green Arrow kills him to save John Stewart, which is kind of neat. But
yeah, the whole fall of Hal Jordan is it was a big plot point for the DC universe.
Yeah.
Where he destroyed the entire Green Lantern Corps and a lot of them. And then his fall, and then
he ends up with like a handful of green rings on his thing. And again, would be a cool story if it weren't the last 40 minutes of this hour and a half movie. I mean, not even, maybe 35 minutes. Like once they find him, and then, but the reveal is in the last 10 minutes, not even. So, I mean, it's too much thrown into too short of a thing. If it had been like a part 1, a part 2, like when Batman did the Long Halloween or the Killing Joke, they broke those up or Dark Knight Returns, they broke those into 2 parts, a part 1 and a part 2. This would have been so much better, because you could have found a really cool place to put a cliffhanger in it. And then you would have to feel like you've gotten all this information. And again, I'm pretty well versed with the DC universe, but I was just given so much stuff in this little amount of time that it just didn't feel like, I think they just tried to push too much onto your plate, and you're like, whoa, this is a buffet. I'm gonna have a little bit of a time. I don't want to sit down and just have one helping sort of thing, which is what I ended up getting. So
no, eat it, Troy. Eat it.
I don't want it. No,
you
I'm
took
done.
it, you
No,
eat it.
Get it away. No, I'm full. I don't even have any room for ice cream now.
You took it, you eat it. You clean that plate, damn it.
But I didn't want this much. But yeah, so it's unfortunate, because I was actually kind of looking forward to seeing this, because I'm like, ooh, DC movies, animated movies are usually pretty good, but this, unfortunately,
not so good.
Not so good. Yeah.
All right. So Disney Plus dropped we'd seen a teaser for it, Light and Magic, basically the ILM story, and this past Wednesday they dumped the whole thing on us. 6 episodes. The shortest of these episodes is like 55 minutes.
Yeah.
But sorry,
and that's like one of the first ones,
54 minutes.
Yeah.
But they go up to like 65 minutes, some of these. And what's nice, yes, this is produced by Disney Plus. Yes, they own ILM. But they don't sweep the dark side under the rug. They show it all. They show both sides. And they start right from the beginning when, Lucas is like, all right, I'm going to make this movie. I don't know how. And, he goes to an effects company, that one of the only ones in LA, and they're like, we can't do it. Here, go see this guy, John Dykstra, and let's see what he can put together for you. And the first 2 episodes is all about the creation of the effects for Star Wars, and just the sheer volume of stuff they did to get it done. And I mean, it was eye-opening. It really was. So yeah,
It was fun watching it because, like, again, like the effects industry is established now, and even back
Mhm.
when we were in college, they kind of figured things out. Computers were new, but they were figuring things out. But this, it's like we don't have a camera that can do that.
Yeah,
Like, we have to actually build the computers. We have to build the whole infrastructure. And Luke's like, "Why do you only have 2 shots?" It's like, because we have to make everything.
Yeah, they spent half the budget just making the equipment so that they could start creating the shots. And Lucas gets back from London, and he's like, they showed him 2 shots, and he's like, well, we're at the rest. And it's like, we're still making the equipment to make the rest.
Yeah.
My favorite part is seeing the old footage. And again, you guys, I'm pretty sure, are well aware of most of the people that they were introduced to. I mean, you know of their names, or you probably have seen their faces, because I mean, we're freaking geeks that way and all that. We like to see the behind the scenes stuff and all that. And I've seen footage of most of these guys and all that.
Yeah.
But the amount of like old footage of these pioneers of this amazing company is just so fascinating to see. I'm like, where has this shit been all this time? How come no one has brought this
It's
up?
been sitting in the archives.
Exactly.
And home movies.
Yeah,
like, I should have seen that water slide years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Exactly.
Like, oh my God.
So stuff like that was, I mean, because a lot of these guys had been filmmakers, or at least like, home movie makers before so they just kept making the home movies while stuff was being done.
That was a fun thing to watch, is the home movie.
Yeah.
And the home movies
making,
was
like,
fantastic.
where they came from. Because like you said, like, we know the names, but I didn't know the backstories. Like, I didn't know they got a job in something else.
Yeah.
But they were doing this on the side. And again, the idea that they didn't have videos back then. They didn't have, like, you saw it in the theater. You watched the Harryhausen effects.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, I can't see that again, but I want to try and do it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And see all these things that they were doing. Amazing. And I'm sure, like, all of us have that in our life where you're exposed to something and it's like, I'm going to
do that. I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You start making the home stop motion animation, or you start making home videos, or, you start doing your own prosthetics, or like whatever it is. Like, you start creating because it's like, I love this. I don't know how the hell they did it, but I'm going to try it.
Exactly.
And you see, like, that's the foundation of ILM. It's
and
amazing.
You see how some of the bigger names got into the project, and you see their contribution, and the fact that they were still cutting and mixing the week before the movie was coming out. Like, up to the last couple of days, they were still doing the final sound mix. And the fact that Lucas just went to Hawaii, he didn't want to see the opening. He just thought it was going to bomb, and that the whole bet between Spielberg and Lucas for one point, 1% of your movie's budget, return, and the Spielberg's like, he made me a rich man. So one episode, for people listening, episodes 1 and 2 is all about Star Wars, the creation of the industry that ILM had to do for Star Wars to get it off the ground. And then 3 is when they're like, well, we'd like to do a second movie. And what they had to do with ILM during that gap while Lucas is writing that movie. And so they moved the entire, originally they were in Van Nuys in this old warehouse. That's the industrial part of Industrial Light and Magic. And they moved up to San Francisco, but a lot of the key players went except for John Dykstra, mainly because, so he was in charge of ILM during Star Wars. And I guess the arguments between him and Lucas were legendary. It was just two chafing personalities. And when Lucas had the opportunity to move everyone up closer to San Francisco, he just let Dykstra go, let him twist the wind. And it's not like Dykstra didn't have a career after that. There was some legal battles because Dykstra was doing Battlestar Galactica, and Lucas claimed he was using basically the stuff they learned while doing Star Wars into Battlestar Galactica, which was originally supposed to be a movie and then got turned into a TV series, and so on and so forth. And then we see, I think episode 4 of this was John Knoll, who is a huge member of ILM, especially computers. The fact that he and his brother were the driving force behind Photoshop, something we've all used. So when you start up Photoshop and you see that splash page, you see the Knoll brothers as two of the leads on it. Yeah, it was them doing Photoshop. And the whole that episode's called I Think I Found My People, because Knoll, as a 15-year-old got to tour ILM. I would have died at 15 if I could have done
for sure. Oh my God, yes.
And yeah, thought he found his people. So we went to the same film school that Lucas went to, got a chance and made his own motion control camera. And that's kind of how he got his foot in the door in ILM. And then episode 5 is where they started bringing computers in, morphing. Willow, that huge morphing sequence.
Nice. Yeah.
They talk about how they did it practically and then how they used software to make those morphs work. And a lot of how Lucas was trying to bring ILM and the entire film industry into more of a digital age. Digital editing with Droid, which was the name of their editing software, the Pixar animation computer, trying to take everything into a digital medium. And they talk about the Abyss. Episode 6 really talks about a lot of the CG. So the hiring of like Steve Williams and Mark Deep doing the Abyss, Terminator 2, and then the big tentpole that really put ILM into mainstream consciousness, Jurassic Park. So with Jurassic Park, I mean, they go over a lot of what was going on behind the scenes. And I liked the fact, so a little side note. So in 97, Steve Williams came back to Sheridan College, taught a class in the computer animation department, and had this big, basically almost like a big presentation where he talked to us for like almost 3 hours. And
Spaz, right? Spaz?
Yeah, Spaz. And he laid it all out, what was going on behind the scenes. And he and Dennis Muren are not best friends. I'm going to say that right now. Because for years, right up until I think this documentary, Muren always said that, he felt ILM could do dinosaurs. Now, you find out that during the course of this, that Dennis Muren met his wife, and his wife was the woman that introduced Phil Tippett to his wife, or Phil Tippett's wife to him. So Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren were best of friends, and their wives knew each other. And, so originally Jurassic Park was supposed to be done by Phil Tippett and his team. And up until now, Dennis Muren has said, he thought that ILM could do the dinosaurs digitally. And, and so when back in, was it 93, I think?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, 93, when Jurassic Park won the Oscar for visual effects, Dennis Muren was one of the first people running up on the stage to collect his Oscar. As a side note, the guy has had 15 Academy Award nominations. He's won 9 times. He has or 8 times, sorry. He's won 8 awards, nominated 15 times. He has the record for most Academy Award nominations and most award wins for visual effects. So back in 97, when Spaz had left ILM, he had nothing good to say about Dennis Muren. Basically called him, basically a thief. That he was sitting atop the shoulders of people who were actually doing the work to collect the rewards, and lying through his teeth about it to do it. So at the time we were like, oh God, we didn't know what to say. Didn't know what to say. Is this true? Is this just, is this sour grapes? Like what's going on? So when this show came out, when Light and Magic comes out, Muren is sitting there and he's like, yeah, I didn't think we could do it. He's like 100% did not think that ILM was capable of doing dinosaurs. And there's a couple of sections where they talk with Spaz and they talk about the fact that him and Deep went back to the pit, which is where they had this little soundproof room where their computers were, and they went in late at night and did it, basically under the cover of darkness sort of thing without anyone knowing. And when they showed Kathleen Kennedy and a couple of the others, suddenly ILM found the money to funnel some money into the project to see could they do a fully skinned dinosaur, because up in that point it was just a skeleton walking. So they funded some money in, see if they could do a fully skinned dinosaur. They brought the other resources of ILM in to like do some texturing of the skin and all that sort of stuff, and it was just a simple walk cycle. But that was the one that they famously showed Spielberg and crew, and where Phil Tippett said, I feel like I'm extinct now, and and that's when they said, they hired Tippett's crew to come in, and with the DID, the dinosaur input device, so Tippett's animators were animating the dinosaurs digitally. That that information was being transferred to the computer, and then the animators at ILM were like cleaning it up and stuff like that. But as I said, for up until this documentary, the official statement was that Dennis Muren was the driving force behind creating these digital dinosaurs. But at this one, with this, it kind of validates Spaz in saying that no, Muren wasn't behind them. But he was quick to jump to the stage for the Academy Awards to accept that Oscar. And that was part of the friction of why Steve Williams left ILM. Because after Jurassic Park, he worked on The Mask as a supervising animator, was actually part of the team nominated for Academy Award, but didn't win. But he said from that point on, from Jurassic Park on, he did The Mask, a little bit of Jumanji, and Eraser, but felt like he was being handed projects that were not Oscar worthy. So they elevated his role to a supervising animator, but put him on projects that would not put him on a podium. And he finished out his contract with Eraser and with basically a giant fuck you, and went to work on Spawn. Deep left at the same time. He was the director on Spawn. Spaz was the visual effects guy, like the effects director. The only other thing he's done is he did the movie The Wild, that horrible animated one. And then he's done.
Oh, wait, he did that?
He was the director on The Wild.
He was the director on The Wild? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And since then he's just done commercials. Now, as a side note, there is a documentary about Spaz, came out this year back in March, called Spaz. It's not streaming anywhere. It hasn't been screened very well, but the synopsis is Steven Spaz Williams is considered a pioneer computer animation. This intimate account examines his life story and events surrounding the historical moment when digital dinosaurs walked onto the silver screen in Jurassic Park. Steve and a chorus of expert witnesses recount the dramatic tale of rebellion and revolution at Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic in the early 1990s, a time when creating realistic creatures with a computer was considered impossible. Decades later, Steve struggles to reckon with his chaotic past.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you watched it?
I haven't seen it yet. I want to, just because it sounds very interesting. And a lot of it comes from that talk that he gave to all the computer animation students. It was just like, it felt like a guy who was kind of bearing his soul and warning, because I mean, at the time, everyone and their dog wanted to work for ILM.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I applied to ILM on several occasions, and it was difficult getting my foot in the door. Most of it stemmed from because they had so many American schools pumping out animators that they were like, we'd rather just hire an American versus going through the whole visa bullshit to get a Canadian. And I mean, at the time I was like, you know what, fuck it, whatever. I'll, whatever it takes. And, I pretty much forgot about it. So jumping back to 97, when he gave this talk, it was like, he sounded like he was trying to warn a lot of us away from ILM. And, now seeing this documentary, this Light and Magic documentary, I can kind of see why. I can see what's going on behind the scenes. Because as I said, they did not hold back on this documentary. They showed you the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Lucas at one point saying that, movies are special effects. And then almost immediately it cuts to like 3 other directors saying, no, the story is the most important thing. And it was just like, oh, because I remember Mike and I were talking about the fact that, the prequel movies felt like Lucas got so in love with the special effects, he kind of missed the story.
Yeah.
And in essence, it basically, this documentary says kind of the same thing, that he was, when he felt like he could make the prequel episodes, he got lost in the weeds when it came to the computers, and just, the story kind of fell to the wayside, and it felt that way.
Now, that's one thing I think, and I've always said that about the original Star Wars, is obviously Lucas had this amazing idea. He was able to pull everything together. He pulled the people together. But I mean, it's documented how he was basically having a nervous breakdown towards the end.
Yeah.
The movie was saved in the editing, and it was the people around him that basically made everything happen, right? So he had the right people around him to take all the genius ideas that he had, and the people who were making the story, like Joseph Campbell, giving the heroic myth archetypes, and all the people making models and the effects, like all that stuff came together. It's like this weird synchronicity that just kind of coalesced into this greatest movie of all time.
Yeah.
But in a way, like in a lot of ways, it was a bit of a fluke. Like, even though it was genius, if all the other stuff wasn't in place, it wouldn't have happened.
I mean,
then Empire was like lightning striking twice.
Yeah, like Star Wars. I mean, they should have all been buying lottery tickets, because there was just so much luck involved that it all came together and worked. And yeah, by the time they got around to Empire, they had kind of streamlined some of the process. They had kind of rubbed out all the rough spots. So when they got onto Empire, they could get it done. But making Star Wars, I mean, they didn't know if they were going to make all the shots. And I mean, by today's standards, Star Wars does not have a whole lot of effect shots.
No, for sure.
But when you're breaking that much ground, making motion control cameras, and you're, coming up, the fact that, so they even showed a sequence with, I think it was the last episode, talking about the Mandalorian and the volume and the LED stuff, and the fact that once they had announced, the model department made the Razor Crest, and John Knoll took it upon himself to build a motion rig for the Razor Crest, so that there's just one scene they used it in where it's a big flyby as he's flying away. They use it in the first episode. And I remember watching that episode of The Mandalorian and seeing that it's just a flyby of the Razor Crest as it's leaving the planet, and going, this is Star Wars. That felt so Star Wars, because it's not a digital model.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
It had the imperfections that a hands-on model would have. And it just, to me, it was like, from that point on, this is Star Wars. Like, that one scene cemented it as a Star Wars production. And because they were using a practical model, they used a motion control camera. Yeah, they superimposed the star field and compositing and the planet and stuff, but it worked so well. And the fact that Noel was like, just took it upon himself to do it, because he just wanted to do it the way it had been done back when they did the original movies. Because
that's been a fun thing with all these series. It's like, especially with Tip involved, because once he saw Mandalorian, it's like, hey, we'll do a couple shots.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact they got to do some stop motion in there,
exactly.
Again, that feels like Star Wars.
It does. And it was just this was a really fun documentary to watch. I highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in visual effects. It's just because it covers such a wide range, and as I've said, they don't hold anything back. They don't hide anything. They don't disguise anything. They don't omit anything. Even though it hurts the company, or if it hurts the image of a person, they still show it, which is how a documentary should be. To show both sides, show all sides.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's all Disney, which is, I mean, obviously you're coming from Disney and all that sort of thing, but it was a fascinating, fun watch. So
it was.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree with the dog. I will say though, so it's funny. So I have my master's degree in animation. And I got it through a company or a school in San Francisco. I did it all virtually. So I was living in New York State while I was doing it. And so one of my graduate coordinator, Tom Bertino. So he worked at ILM with Spaz on The Mask, was actually nominated for an Academy Award. So he was my graduate coordinator. And he had animation supervisor from ILM was one of my animation teachers for one of the classes. And one of the assignments we had was we were given a scene that had errors. A scene in Maya that had errors, and we had a full week to try to figure out what the errors are, come up with fixes, and resubmit the scene. And it was just like it's a character walking into the scene, steps over something, reaches down, picks up a coffee cup, kind of looks in the coffee, like examines the coffee cup, puts it back down. That's the whole scene. It was not even like 9 seconds long. Very, very short and to the point. But the problems were like the character does not reach his mark in the scene. He's like off by a little bit. When he goes to reach,
sounds like mocap cleanup.
When he goes to reach for the cup kind of like jumps into his hand like he's using the force. And his feet are sliding everywhere. It's like he's walking on ice. And so I got the scene and I was immediately like, ooh, let's see what I can do. And I was able to use like a couple of constraint systems to lock the feet because the person who had animated the scene had animated the character's master null. So instead of moving the body and then moving the feet so the feet would lock into place, he was moving the whole master null. So he's actually counter animating the feet to try to keep them in place. So they're kind of like jiggling and sliding on every frame.
Yeah, that's a rookie move.
It is. So I used constraint nulls to kind of lock his footprints in place. I used a null on top of the master null to kind of slide him over so he lands in his mark at the end. Fixed his step over so he actually stepped over the object that was there, and then used a constraint system that as his hand got close, second the hand would make contact, the constraint took over, and now he was holding the cup and interacting with it and setting it down. Very simple.
Do you still have the animation?
No. I mean, I might have it somewhere, but I don't even think I have a version of Maya that would run it. Because I was running, I think, Maya 2015 at the time. Anyway, I get the scene done in about 3 hours. And so I resubmit it. So we had a live class, and at the end of the class, he's like, here's the scene files. And this was at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because it was 3 p.m. his time. And by 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I submitted the file back. And the next day, he's like, you have the whole week to work on it. I don't need it until next week. I'm like, I'm done. And so he looked at the file and he's like, son of a bitch, you did get it done. And and because you had to list all the things you did, all the corrections or all the mistakes you found, and then how you did all the corrections. And he was like, that was inventive and faster than I expected. And I was like, all right, so go on to the next thing. And I forgot about it. I completely forgot about it. So right towards the end, like about 2 weeks before I graduated and got my master's, Tom Bertino says, do you want to work at ILM? And I'm like, he's like, now this was like on a Friday night because we had a graduate class with him. And he's like, if you want to work at ILM, be in San Francisco Monday morning, 8:30. The guy whose class you just finished taking will walk you through the hire process. You'll be sitting at your own workstation by noon. And I'm like, I can't. I've got my family here. I can't pick up and leave. I can't do it. I can't walk away from my family for a year. Because Fred wasn't even a twinkle in anyone's eyes yet, but we had the girls. Josie was starting. She was going to be starting kindergarten soon. I was just like, I can't do it. And it's funny, if I had been asked that 10 years previous, I would have dropped everything to go. Times change.
Yeah, family changes things.
So yeah, as I said, back in when I first graduated from computer animation, or even 10 years later, if I'd gotten an offer like that, I would have jumped at it in a heartbeat. 2016, and I'm like, no thanks. And And I know for a fact when Mare's listening, this will be the first time she's ever heard this, because I never told her. I never told her I got the job offer. Just
Really?
It's
Oh,
because I know she would have said, go for it, go do it. But I also know there's no way in hell it would have worked back home with me in San Francisco. It just wouldn't have worked.
I don't know
And-
how many times I've known animators that have taken that job and they've gone away for however many months or even years. And that's something that I was never able to do. It's
Yeah,
like, no,
I just
it's a package deal. Move out as a unit.
exactly. And the thing is, Mare was, she has her dream job and her dream location. She always wanted to move back to the capital district where her parents are. She's working at the place she wants to be. I couldn't say, oh, well, let's just pick up and go to San Francisco. I can't ask that much of her, especially, we have at the time we had two little girls. So it was easier for me to just say, thank you for the offer, but I can't do it.
Now, here's an interesting thing. After all this COVID nonsense, it's going to be interesting to see how things change with all these remote jobs now, because it's already been proven over the last 2 years that you can do animation remote.
Mm-hmm.
And like, where do things go from here? Like, are studios going to, because obviously there's a lot of intellectual property and you want to keep, things under wraps, but at the same time, as everything's been shut down and things are being outsourced and people are able to go back to their home because it's like, hey, we can't go into the studio, but we still got to get this movie done. And it worked. So like, it's going to come to a time where, maybe you can have that job, right?
Exactly.
And stay where you're at. Like, the future is going to be really interesting for this kind of stuff.
It was. It's just, yeah. So that was my connection to ILM, was that. Now, this kind of segues into, we've been having some tales from the world of animation. I've had a couple of turns. Michael, it's
I
your
thought you
turn.
filled that segment already, Trevor.
I don't think so.
Okay, Tales from Animation. So this one, and this is more of a fun story. I'm not going to be throwing dirt because reasons. But so a fun story. This is back working at Tippett Studio. And again, this was a dream job for me. Like, Phil Tippett was the reason I got into visual effects. Like, it was either animate Bugs Bunny or do cool AT-AT walkers, and after drawing for 3 years in animation, it's like, I'm ready to, put the pencil down and start doing other things. So we knew that we had a limited window because my daughters were growing up and we wanted to get back home by the time they started school. So the last sort of kick at the can at doing something really cool is like, I have to work on something awesome. It has to be a movie. I was looking at either Sony or Tippett. I was hoping Sony Spider-Man, but they wanted me on Casper. And then at Tippett, it was like, oh yeah, we're working on this thing, Hellboy. It's like, what? You see the right hand of doom. It's like, yes, I will do this. So moved to Tippett, went through Hellboy, and after that was Constantine. So while working on Constantine, actually back the story up a little bit. Tippett did this thing Thursdays, like basically every week. So all the company would get together in the parking lot and have beers, and family could come. It was just a big social gathering that they would do. So on this Thirsty Thursday, Erica came with the girls, which all the people at Tippett called the kitchenettes, and they were in the parking lot, and hanging in the parking lot was the demon from Constantine. So with the head chopped off.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it was an amazing model. It was the prop. It had all the controls where you could manipulate the mouth and the hands. It was just hanging there like this weird demonic creature. And it was under a tarp, but you could touch the skin and it felt like skin. And it was one of those moments as a father. It's like, do I introduce the girls to the demon? Like, I think I probably should. So I brought them over there, unleashed the drapery, and they're completely terrified. It's like, girls, it's okay. It's just a puppet. Like, you can actually control it. It's like, what? So I showed them all the different remotes, and then they just start like puppeteering this gigantic demon life-size creature in the parking lot.
Nice.
and they don't seem to have been traumatized since.
Haven't had any therapy bills yet.
Yeah. So that's my tale from animation.
That's cool.
Sweet.
It was short, sweet, to the point, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to just, I think we're probably going to be coming up close to the end of our particular show here. So there was another movie that was released this week, and apparently I've been in some sort of DC rut this week, and I was able to take my daughter to go see in theaters the DC League of Superpets. Now, for those out there who are interested in seeing this and all that, I'm not going to do very much spoiling, but I'm going to say that this is probably the funnest kids movie I've seen in the longest time. I mean, any of those Disney's, like, I was a big fan of Encanto. I really enjoyed Turning Red. I think the last kids movie we saw in the theater was Frozen 2, pre-pandemic and all that. And they're all entertaining and fun to see and all that. This movie, I think because of that whole entire DC thing in the background, it was such a fun thing to watch. It felt like something that came out of a Marvel Universe sort of story where there's all these other stories that you know about because you know the characters. They don't go off on some sort of strange, these are basic versions of all the characters, but it is a movie that is like all your typical kids movies nowadays. It's made for the kids and there's segments made for the adults. And the fact that they overlap so beautifully makes this such an entertaining movie. I mean, you've got fantastic voice acting. They're all like to a T. I mean, like you've got obviously, you know, Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart are the main characters. They are Crypto and they are Ace, Batman's dog. Well, who isn't Batman at this time and all that, but is not Batman's dog at this point. It isn't until the end. But you got kind of a cool thing because you got a Marvel actor now coming over to DC, where John Krasinski now plays Superman. So he's Mr. Fantastic and Superman in the same year. Kate McKinnon as the main bad guy is fantastic. She does, I mean, Kate McKinnon, even though you don't see Kate McKinnon, you know it's Kate McKinnon behind this voice. Like, she is this SNL character that she is and all that. And Mark Maron doing Lex Luthor is just so precise, on point and all that. There's a couple of like things that you actually have to listen for as well. When they introduce all of the super, like the Justice League characters, they're given like a title card, like photo frame sort of thing as they introduce the character. And then they introduce Wonder Woman. It's the like TV series font of Wonder Woman with her pose. And if you listen closely, you hear dun 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 dun. And then when they do Batman, it's dun 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 dun. Superman even gets the dun 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 at one point. Nice. And all that. So there's, if you know your history of DC, it's so beautifully done. And this is a fun watch, and it's a fantastic DC movie. And I'm so glad I saw this movie today to basically get friggin' the Green Lantern movie out of my head, sort of thing. So it was a great,
a healthy cleanse is a good thing.
It was a great cleanse. And again, it's a buddy film. It's, I mean, the Rock and Kevin Hart together yet again. But it is like again, it's a cartoony movie, so there is a bit of off character squash and stretch sort of thing, but it's very still within the feel of a really well done animated feature. And the way they deal with, I mean, you'd figure how you get rid of the Justice League, it makes sense how this happens. And it's just a fun movie. And again, I highly recommend going to see this movie, or seeing this movie as soon as possible. It's a fun, it's nice to be able to be able to witness a movie like this. And my daughter was laughing along at all the parts that little kids would laugh along at. She, I think, even got a couple of the bigger jokes just because she lives in the household that she lives in. But yeah, so again, a fun movie. Like I said, don't want to spoil too much of it because I think this is something that you just have to go in and just watch for yourself, because even those that are not with kids, they're probably gonna, if you're a DC fan, you're gonna enjoy this movie. So yeah.
Question for you.
Yes.
Would you recommend Super Pets or Harley Quinn more? If you had to pick one to recommend
If I
most.
had to pick one to, I would have to say League of Superpets, because it's a one-time sit. You sit down, you're there for an hour and a half, or just, no, it's just over an hour and a half, not quite 2 hours. Well, what is it? It's 107 minutes, I think, is how long it is. So, but it doesn't feel like that, which is kind of nice. There's not too much you have to absorb to enjoy the whole entire movie, and then you can just like, hey, that was pretty good. Harley Quinn, you sit down with the first episode, I guarantee you're going to binge the whole entire series. And I did the in between takes. I looked it up. It's 13 episodes, and right now there's only 3. So there's quite a bit of Harley Quinn to sit through. You're not going to be able to sit through it in one. League of Super Pets is a fun, and it's a family watch too. That's the other thing too. If you've got a family, I would say Super Pets. But you know what? If it's
that does
not,
make a big difference.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference. But I would still, out of the 2, because Harley Quinn, you're not going to sit there and sit one episode, because if you have them available to, you're going to watch as many as you can. Basically, your ass can take you sitting through and all that. But League of Super Pets is a fun romp through the whole entire thing. And again, they're both fun. They're both hilarious, very well written, very well performed. But I would definitely, of the 2, I would do Super Pets just for that whole entire anyone can watch it sort of thing.
This is the 5th movie with Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, because
it's got to be the 2 Jumanjis,
Central Intelligence,
The
Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw. And
well, okay, I guess technically, yeah.
No, yeah, 5.
There you go. Well, it seems like there should be more than there. Somewhere.
There should be, but yeah.
They
there will be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there definitely will be. But yeah, so I would definitely recommend this. So
awesome.
Any other closing thoughts from anyone?
All
what do we got coming up?
Fat people use more soap.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So we've got coming up next, we got the Disney Plus I Am Groot coming out, the shorts. Yeah, which is I think only 6 shorts, and they're only about 10 minutes each or something like that, which will be cute. I mean, it looks cool because it's the animated Groot from.
I'm sure Ramona will watch them to death.
Oh no, I have no doubt Aslan will be watching them too. Well, I mean, I'll put them on. I will put them on, and Aslan will watch them with me.
Yeah, I mean, she watched the Seabeast 3 times, so
there you go. Oh, is that good? Is it good?
It's a fun watch. Ramona, we watched it as a family the first time, and then she watched it on an iPad, and then during her birthday, she had me throw it on the TV for a third time, and she watched most of it.
Oh, that's great.
It is
a
fun
great
watch.
Thing. Okay, and it's a Netflix, right?
Netflix, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because I was looking at that the other day. I'm like, I've heard good things about this, but yeah, no, that's great. Because I think in a week or 2 we have. Is it She-Hulk that drops?
Yes, She-Hulk drops in August.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I did finally watch the trailer because last podcast I hadn't seen it yet.
Right. The latest trailer.
Yeah. So the 2 things I loved was the fourth wall thing, talking to the camera. Yeah. That was amazing. Daredevil was epic.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, I'm cringing over this whole, what is it, phase 4 that we're in, where they keep emasculating the male characters, raising up the females. And it's just starting to get tiring. Marvel's all about male power fantasy, and this phase seems to be, it's oh my God, I can do so much better than you. Now, even to the point where Hulk's throwing boulders and She-Hulk's throwing it farther, and Hulk's doing the meditation pose. It's that's pretty good for Hulk. He's not just smashing, and she's doing all these fancy moves. It's I'm just kind of done with this. And again, I haven't seen Thor yet, so I still can't comment. but it's like the trailer turned me off, and the fact that my daughter said, "You won't like it, Dad." It's like, it's like, just I want to get back to this. Can you name? I can name one. Can you name anything Marvel's done in this phase that hasn't basically emasculated the male character and raised up the female?
That I'm sorry, one more time. Say that again.
Where they've taken the male character,
Right,
and basically dumbed him down, like emasculated him.
Gotcha.
Where it's
I see.
you know,
I
he's
see.
like, "Oh, you're not so cool," but then they've raised up the female counterpart.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that's a good one. Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Shang-Chi
that's
and
a
the
good
Ten
one.
Rings. They
Yeah. What was your example, Mike?
Spider-Man.
What do you mean?
Like,
what?
I mean, it was a Sony movie, but
Right.
it stayed like hardcore Spider-Man all the
Oh,
way
I see what
through.
you're getting. I see what you're getting at.
It's
Sorry,
not
I
like
apologize.
Spider-Girl
Yeah.
didn't show up.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, it stayed a Spider-Man movie the whole way through,
Right.
and it made $1 billion. Like, it's like everybody was so excited for that movie. But okay, yeah, I give Trevor a point for Shang-Chi because
Yeah.
I mean, the sister did show up.
but she didn't
She didn't
outfight
steal
him.
the show.
She didn't steal
Yeah,
the
she
show. It
didn't
was
steal the
still his
show.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, he got all 10 rings.
Going back to the She-Hulk, you guys are aware that it's going to be 9 episodes, right?
Yes.
You guys are aware that it's going to be half-hour episodes?
Yes.
Okay.
I am now.
Well, there you go. So apparently this is going to be more of a sitcom sort of deal. So
Which it should be.
yeah, no, totally, especially the She-Hulk character, because she is definitely, when John Byrne was doing She-Hulk back in the day, that was the thing. And again, yes, that fourth wall was fantastic. The fact that she does a double take is even better. So yeah. I think also the your whole entire thing with Hulk throwing the boulder and then She-Hulk throwing it further and all that, I think he's just going, you go like this, right? And then she goes, huh? And like, so she puts an effort extra into it to try and beat her cousin and all that sort of thing, where he's just like a single lob sort of thing, where he obviously could friggin' the boulder could go around the earth sort of thing toss. So I think he's playing easy. That the horn was fantastic for comedy effect. Yeah, was it necessary for comedy? Yeah, it was. I mean, so
that was great.
Yeah.
When I found out that this was going to be like half-hour sitcom episodes, originally, I mean, if you look at it, the John Byrne comics, each comic book was like a little episode, a sitcom episode. I mean, occasionally they'd have a story that would go across 3 issues or 2 issues, but usually one issue was all by itself, start to finish. It felt like I just read a sitcom.
Yeah. So I'm really thrilled for that. I mean, I've been a big fan of She-Hulk for like forever. So to see this second trailer and the fact that it's coming out the 17th, I believe, is that it? It's near the
August 17th.
Yeah, 17th. So that'll be,
and again, October, right around the time for a couple weeks, and then Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, and then Wakanda Forever. Yeah. So that's So that's.
I
exciting.
hope they pull it off. Like, I want it to be a winner.
As long as they keep breaking the fourth wall, I'll be happy, because they did it so much in the comic books and it was done so smartly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So I think we're going to be calling it a little bit of quits on that sort of thing. Now I know the show continues on, and after the credits start to roll, we do the whole entire hey, join us on Facebook, join us on TikTok, go to our YouTube and all that. But what we really like to do is make sure that we get home that we would like you to go to whoever you get your podcast from, to make sure you subscribe, you share, you put in a nice little rating, which would be kind of cool, and give us a comment. It just helps us grow our product and all that sort of thing, which is something that we are actually going to be physically pushing towards for the next couple of months and all that. And we're hoping by fall to get a whole entire nice ball rolling with this whole entire Planet Geek Productions. Sorry, little swallow in the back of the throat, ran out of drinking. So talking, I'm not used to, I'm not talking to, I'm a little verklempt. Yes, talk amongst yourselves. Not used to this much talking out loud to myself, and I've definitely run out of something to drink. So so if you could just, again, share, talk to people about it. if they like this sort of meandering sort of thing. We talk about stuff that's pretty current. So
If you like this sort of thing, then this is the
This is
thing
the
for
thing.
you.
exactly.
If you don't, then what are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you? Why are you listening to this? You've
And
been listening
even
to
though
this for
you paid for your whole seat, you'll only need the edge.
exactly. All right. So on that night, I think on that note, I think we're gonna
Good night,
call
folks.
it. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna call it a collective goodbye. In
Three-
3, 2, 1.
Collective
goodbye.
Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, yeah, all right.
That was better.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Good
right.
night, folks.
Good night, folks.
See you next time.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same Spider Channel, may the Force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to Planet Geek. Oh wow, you know it's been forever. I've listened to you guys do it for the past couple of weeks. I'm like, what do you guys say? And like, what do we?
Greetings, geeks.
Yeah, it's just greetings, geeks, right?
Welcome to Geeking Up.
Yeah.
That's
You got this. Don't worry. The production guy
you
we
know
got is
what?
really good. He can fix all of
Yeah,
this.
we got an editor. Yeah, we got a pretty half decent editor for that sort of thing.
Just fix it all in post.
All right. Wait a sec. This is being recorded by hosts or a participant. Okay, yeah, I got it. I don't need that on the screen now. Okay, here we go. Let's try this all over again. All right. And in 3, 2, 1, sort of thing. It's so entertaining and okay. Someone apparently is listening to this in the background that I can hear. But,
that me?
Yeah. Well, you're I take it the only one playing Harley Quinn in the background, where they've kidnapped what's her face in charge of the Suicide Squad. So yeah.
Oh,
I'll have to check my audio.
Yeah, exactly. Being episode 47, because I don't think we mentioned that up at the top and all that. I just want to
that's up
say,
to you.
yeah, I guess that would have been up to me. Yeah, that's what I said. But I'll just edit it in later and just say that I already said it.
Yeah, Trevor, come on. Didn't you hear that at the beginning?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did.
exactly. Yeah. What are you guys talking about? I already said that.